Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today. Chapter 451. He was born for the martial Tao. On the other side of the summit, the initially disinterested figures, each occupied in their own conversations, barely paid attention to the one sensing the martial ancestors' divine radiance. There was no helping it. Behind the first group of invited martial Tao geniuses, many of the censors who had got in through back doors performed dismally. None of them had a martial Tao compatibility of more than 10%. If the martial ancestors' divine radiance wasn't so crucial, requiring their supervision upon activation, they probably would have left a long time ago. It's about to end. The leading figure was the great supreme elder of the martial temple, ranking just below the three who were out waging war in the 7th stage martial Tao. He glanced casually at the sight of the martial ancestors' divine radiance below. The next moment, the great supreme elder's pupils constricted sharply. In his sight, strands of the martial ancestors' divine radiance bubbled up as one divine statue after another began to emit 12-fold radiance. For a moment, inside the walls, at the site where the 7 divine statues were placed, the martial ancestors' divine radiance nearly spilled out. What's this? The great supreme elder's heart shook with awe. The only possible reason for the martial ancestors' divine radiance to be actively attracted was the presence of a censor with overwhelmingly powerful martial talent, causing the full revival of the divine radiance. This event had taken place several times over the past 100,000 years, but the attraction to the martial ancestors' divine radiance never reached the scale of today. Divine statues blooming with 12-fold light, and 7 statues at that. Am I dreaming? Another supreme elder murmured to himself. The 7 divine statues represent 7 different directions of martial Tao, such as prowess in killing, excellence in defense, mastery over domains, and so on. Since the establishment of the martial temple, indeed, there had been examiners who caused several divine statues to simultaneously bloom with radiance, but that was at most 3 or 4 statues, and each statue's radiance did not exceed 70%. Like now, 12-fold radiance? And all 7 statues at that? Genius! The strongest talent ever since the founding of our martial temple. The several supreme elders quickly recovered, and as strong martial Tao 6th rank experts, they should not have been so flustered. But the scene unfolding before them was simply too inconceivable. In front of the 7 divine statues, Lin Yuan quietly felt the submission emanating from the martial ancestors' divine radiance. The so-called martial ancestors' divine radiance was nothing more than the traces of the Tao and law that Lin Yuan had left on the 7 divine statues, now stimulated by an external force. It was sensitizing him to the most suitable physique and talent for martial Tao cultivation. Ever since the consciousness descent, Lin Yuan was not only steadily recovering his strength but also allowing this physical body to undergo metamorphosis. As the once ancestor of martial arts, the direction in which Lin Yuan would transform his body would undoubtedly be the most suitable for martial Tao. The performance of the martial ancestors' divine radiance merely reflected the breadth of an ultimate physique within the martial Tao cultivation system. Such a physique was basically impossible to be born naturally, only appearing under the guidance of Lin Yuan, the ancestor of martial arts. Of course, this was unknown to outsiders, and even those 3 7th rank old ancestors were clueless. By the side, the elder in a black robe was still engulfed in incredible shock. Having activated the martial ancestors' divine radiance so many times, he had never felt such a scene within the divine radiance before. And the fact that all 7 statues burst forth with 12-fold light also left this black-robed elder somewhat befuddled. For an examiner to make a statue shine with 12-fold light was rare enough for tens of thousands of years. But to have all 7 statues do so? Just as the black-robed elder wondered what to do next, several figures appeared silently beside him, their eyes burning with fervent gaze upon Lin Yuan, a martial Tao talent the likes of which had never been seen before. Heaven blesses our martial temple. Heaven blesses our martial Tao. These sudden figures were the supreme elders of the martial temple. Supreme elders! The elder in the black robe couldn't help but startle. Then he quickly realized. If even he had noticed the anomaly in the martial ancestors' divine radiance, how could the supreme elders have missed it? You may leave. The lead great supreme elder gave the black-robed elder a glance. Yes. The black-robed elder bowed immediately and quickly exited. Young friend. The great supreme elder conjured a trace of a gentle smile and greeted Lin Yuan before he seriously said, I wonder if you would be willing to join our martial temple? Having said this, including the great supreme elder himself, a tinge of nervousness appeared on all their faces. With the influence of the martial temple, they could indeed force Lin Yuan to join. As the heaven of Xianyao City, who would dare refuse the martial temple's decree? But that was something they did to outsiders. Given Lin Yuan's currently revealed terrifying talent, he would likely take charge of the martial temple in the future. In such a case, who would dare to coerce? Did they not fear retribution later on? For a peerless martial Tao genius who could revive the martial temple, coercion was the most foolish method. Join the martial temple? Lin Yuan looked towards the supreme elders of the martial temple. In fact, with his grasp over his own powers, he could have completely blocked the sensing of the martial ancestors' divine radiance. But Lin Yuan did not. The aim was to attract the attention of the martial temple and then join it, utilizing the temple's vast cultivation resources to swiftly recover his strength. The martial temple existed precisely to transcend the martial Tao cultivation system. It was inherently a force under Lin Yuan's command. It even matched part of Lin Yuan's plans for the future. In this journey, he had also planned to spread the martial path evolutionary path. With the martial temple at his disposal, Lin Yuan could avoid many detours. There was no need to start from scratch to build a force and then propagate the martial Tao. I am willing. Lin Yuan nodded and said, willing. The great supreme elder and the other supreme elders exchanged glances, their hearts easing with immense relief. Chapter 452. Outside the walls, everyone was anxiously waiting. The duration of the martial ancestors' divine radiance was limited. The more time wasted by those in front, the less time available for those behind to experience it. Now, more than half an hour had passed since the last person entered, and if it dragged on much longer, the martial ancestors' divine radiance would likely come to an end. Chong Er couldn't have caused any trouble, could he? Lin Jianping's heart skipped a beat, and he could only hope silently. Outside, with the Lin family's means, as long as the trouble Lin Yuan caused wasn't too great, they could basically smooth things over. But this place was the martial temple, where even a randomly grabbed person had more background and status than the Lin family. If Lin Yuan caused trouble here, Lin Jianping felt his scalp tingle at the thought. It couldn't be, it couldn't be. Shenzhen quietly reassured him from beside. However, similar worries surfaced in her heart. The time Lin Yuan spent perceiving the martial ancestors' divine radiance was extraordinarily long. It was hard not to let one's thoughts drift in that direction. Before long, the old man clad in the black robe came out. To everyone, he said, Ladies and gentlemen, the martial ancestors' divine radiance has ended. You may all return. Ended. So soon. It wasn't this quick in previous years, was it? Although the waiting crowd felt extremely reluctant, they dared not question it. What kind of joke would that be? To question the martial temple? Did they no longer wish to live? It's over. Upon hearing this, Lin Jianping looked confused. Where's my son? He hadn't seen Lin Yuan come out from the beginning to the end. Lin Yuan hadn't emerged. Yet it was over? Lin Jianping wanted to ask but didn't dare to. He could only continue to wait in place. Soon, The others began to leave one after the other. It's over. Chong Er must have really gotten into trouble. Lin Jianping felt a chill in his heart, and Shenzhen's face also looked troubled. If there had been no trouble, their son should have come out by now. Just as the two decided to summon the courage to inquire what had happened, the black-robed old man hurried over to Lin Jianping and Shenzhen and said with a somewhat respectful demeanor, "Are you Lin Chang's parents? Please come with me." The tone of the black-robed old man was gentle, utterly lacking the haughtiness he exhibited towards those other people. He was well aware that given Lin Yuan's performance during the perception of the martial ancestor's divine radiance, his future status in the martial temple could be described as immeasurable. Therefore, at this moment, his attitude towards Lin Yuan's parents had to be without any overstepping, or else he would be laying the groundwork for his own trouble. "We are," Lin Jianping hastily said. This black-robed old man was a steward of the martial temple, and elders and patriarchs from big families in Xianyao City were as reserved as grandsons meeting their grandfathers in front of him. Yet now, such an important figure was speaking to him with such a gentle tone. This made Lin Jianping feel as if he were dreaming. After exchanging a few brief pleasantries, the black-robed old man straightforwardly said, "Lin Chong is a martial Tao prodigy, you need not worry." The black-robed elder refrained from revealing too much, only releasing bits of seemingly trivial information to stabilize their emotions. "My son, a martial Tao prodigy?" Lin Jianping blinked and couldn't react for a long while. Shenzhen beside him felt the same. They knew what their son was like, didn't they? Deeper within the martial temple, several supreme elders gathered here once again. After personally taking Lin Yuan to the temple's highest-class cultivation cave dwelling, they came here. Lin Chong, Father Lin Jianping. Information about Lin Yuan appeared before the supreme elders. Even though Lin Yuan's martial talent and innate abilities left them unable to calm down for a long time, the most basic background investigations still needed to be done. Even if, in the view of the supreme elders, this background check didn't mean much, no matter what hidden dangers were in Lin Yuan's identity, they had decided to keep this unprecedented martial Tao prodigy in the martial temple at all costs. Looking at the current situation, he comes from a clean background, born and raised in Xianyao City. The second supreme elder was very satisfied. Certainly, they had been prepared for the worst-case scenarios, such as problems with Lin Yuan's background or some sort of enemy. No matter what, the martial temple would protect him. But without these complications, all the better. "What should we do next?" the third supreme elder asked. The martial temple, as the place of martial Tao heritage, already had a complete process for cultivating disciples. When to do what, which techniques to practice, and so on. All were provided with detailed guidance. However, given the talent displayed by Lin Yuan, the several supreme elders felt that following the past few sets of disciple cultivation procedures was simply a waste. "Let's do this. We few old fellows will personally teach him, how about that?" The great supreme elder suddenly spoke up. "Personally teach him? No problem. I too want to see what differentiates a martial Tao prodigy, who makes all 7 statues shine with 120% of their brilliance." The supreme elders readily agreed. In a high-grade cultivation cave dwelling, Lin Yuan was seated cross-legged in this place. The cultivation environment here is very suitable for martial Tao cultivators. Lin Yuan felt it for a while, and a smile appeared on his face. Xianyao City wasn't established above a spirit vein, hence the spiritual energy wasn't abundant, but there was a kind of vitality that's extremely nourishing for martial Tao cultivators. Especially in this cave dwelling, if Lin Yuan were to let himself absorb freely, not to mention restoring to the 8th layer, at least reaching the 7th rank would be as easy as turning his hand over, and definitely wouldn't take more than 50 years. Choosing to have my consciousness come directly to the spirit realm seems to have been the right decision. The cultivation environment of this world far surpasses that of the lower realms of the central divine continent, Lin Yuan thought to himself. Indeed, Lin Yuan could also have his consciousness descend to the lower realms in the central divine continent and then take over Jun Wuji's body, instantly gaining 7th rank strength, and then ascend to the higher realms. But there are significant disadvantages to that approach, namely that Jun Wuji's body, the domain he established at the 7th rank, was an erroneous one, far inferior to the perfected perfect 7th stage in the main world. Furthermore, ascending to the spirit realm through the ascension platform still involves risks, and breaking through space, smuggling oneself directly from the void into the spirit realm similarly involves risks. After much deliberation, directly descending consciousness to the spirit realm was the best choice. Although starting off lower, now with the help of the martial temple, recovering to the 8th layer wouldn't take long. The next day, the great Supreme Elder took the initiative to visit Lin Yuan. "How do you feel?" the great Supreme Elder asked kindly. Other disciples, even core disciples, needed to stay at the martial academy and undergo various tests when they joined the martial temple. But of course, Lin Yuan didn't need to do those things, as the Supreme Elders themselves were to be his masters. Now that the great Supreme Elder had come over, he planned to personally instruct Lin Yuan and give him a complete impression of the martial Tao cultivation system. "Not bad." Lin Yuan nodded. "The environment here was indeed quite good. Have you looked at those books?" The great Supreme Elder glanced at a bookshelf not far away, filled with jade slips that held a vast amount of information related to martial Tao. One only needed to press a jade slip against their forehead to read it. "Yes," Lin Yuan said. The information in those jade slips had helped Lin Yuan roughly familiarize himself with the current martial Tao. "Then tell me, what have you learned?" The great Supreme Elder intentionally tested Lin Yuan and asked. "The explanation of martial Tao is somewhat one-sided," Lin Yuan said. "Oh? One-sided." The great Supreme Elder became interested. "Martial Tao should encompass all things to grow, all things to thrive. That is the essence of martial Tao," Lin Yuan stated calmly. "All things to grow, all things to thrive?" An intrigued light flickered in the eyes of the great Supreme Elder. Of all the paths in the spirit realm, aside from the exalted immortal path, who dared to comment on their path in such a manner? "What do you mean by all things to grow?" the great Supreme Elder continued to inquire. "Time and space, yin and yang, the 5 elements." Lin Yuan's pace of speech didn't fluctuate and he spoke in a deliberate and measured manner. More than an hour later, the great Supreme Elder walked out of the cave dwelling looking somewhat dazed. "How did it go? How did it go? How did the teaching go? What's his understanding of martial Tao like?" The Supreme Elders were quite curious. His understanding of martial Tao? The great Supreme Elder looked around at his fellow elders and finally, with an indescribable tone, said, "He is born for martial Tao." Chapter 453, Centuries of Time. Born for martial Tao? Several Supreme Elders were stunned. This evaluation could not be considered anything less than high. Placed within the realm of the immortal path, it denoted a dazzlingly brilliant unparalleled genius, an immortal king seed. Though martial Tao was not as esteemed as the immortal path, this acclaim was not something everyone could bear. "Do you not believe it?" The great Supreme Elder glanced at them and sighed softly. Honestly, before he taught Lin Yuan, he also did not believe there was any martial Tao cultivator in the world who could be described thus. But afterward, the great Supreme Elder truly realized, Lin Yuan was indeed such a person. "Wait till tomorrow, after you have taught him, then you will understand." The great Supreme Elder shook his head slightly and strode away. In the following time, several Supreme Elders of the martial temple tried in succession to teach Lin Yuan. But the outcomes often left a sour taste, as they posed questions to Lin Yuan, who would ponder briefly before providing answers. However, whenever Lin Yuan casually returned a question, the Supreme Elders would think for a long time, struck dumb without an explanation, and ultimately it was Lin Yuan who provided the answers. As for his progression in martial Tao cultivation, Lin Yuan made leaps and bounds, with the martial temple providing a full array of resources. His advancement rate was terrifying. In less than a year, he had traversed a path that ordinary martial Tao geniuses might not cover in decades. What the Supreme Elders did not know was that the cultivation speed showcased by Lin Yuan was deliberately shown. As for his true cultivation speed, It was far more frightening than what they could imagine. Martial Temple Guest Hall. Lin Yuan sat casually. Lin Jianping and Xinjun were visibly exhilarated. Chong Er, you don't know, the clan head of the Zhao family, he was so nice to me. All because of you, Chong Er. Lin Jianping looked at his son with an indescribable happiness. In his life, the most correct decision was to let Lin Yuan experience the martial ancestors' divine radiance. Though till this day, he did not know what position Lin Yuan held in the martial temple, or what level of disciple he had become after joining. But as time passed, under Lin Yuan's casual guidance, the martial temple showed subtle signs of closeness to the Lin family. This alerted the major families and powers in Xianyao City. Those who previously looked down upon the Lin family now treated them well. Is that so? Lin Yuan said with a smile. Currently, his status in the martial temple was quite special. Not a disciple, but personally taught by several supreme elders of the martial temple. Theoretically, Lin Yuan's seniority and qualification should be considered on par with this generation's lord of the martial temple. With just a word from Lin Yuan, even the lord of the martial temple would not dare to object. The family chatted for a while. Then Xinjun pulled Lin Jianping to get up and leave. Chong Er, you must take good care of yourself in the martial temple. Xinjun still felt a pang of heartache for Lin Yuan. She had heard that the competition within the martial temple was fierce. Even those core disciples had to pay a huge price to obtain what they wanted. Now that her son could influence the martial temple, the price he must have paid was imaginable. Don't worry, I am doing quite well inside, Lin Yuan said. Even as Lin Yuan said this, Xinjun's eyes turned redder, feeling that Lin Yuan was just putting on a brave front. After seeing off his parents, Lin Yuan then returned to his cultivation cave dwelling. This world, after developing for tens of thousands of years, has explored many different pathways for martial Tao. Lin Yuan fell into thought. Joining the martial temple for nearly half a year, besides his daily cultivation to restore his strength, he observed the changes in the current martial Tao cultivation system. Although Lin Yuan was the founder of martial Tao, initially he had only laid down the first rank chapter to the 7th rank chapter. The 7th rank chapter was only a beginning, and the initially established 7th rank chapter was hardly perfect. After returning to the main world, Lin Yuan created a satisfying 7th rank chapter. It's a pity, so many years have passed, and yet no 8th layer part has emerged. Lin Yuan thought silently to himself. As far as Lin Yuan knew, the strongest in today's martial Tao were but 3 7th rank martial Tao. These 3 7th ranks, the strongest one named Li Qi. As for the other 2, they were later generations of 7th rank, who he taught after ascending to the spirit realm. Of the 3 7th ranks, Li Qing was at the 7th rank peak, while the other 2 hovered in the mid to late 7th rank. 7th rank peak. Lin Yuan looked thoughtful. The path of martial Tao that Li Qing followed was what Lin Yuan had initially left behind. Although it was just the beginning of the 7th rank, Lin Yuan's final assumptions for the continuation of the 7th rank made it not too difficult for Li Qing to reach the 7th rank peak. It was undoubtedly easier than creating the 7th rank chapter from nothing. Of course, since Lin Yuan's originally left behind 7th rank chapter was not perfect, it almost made it impossible for Li Qing to step into the 8th rank. Even in the main world, the 8th rank was a very critical stage, with the 8th rank evolution path being a prerequisite for the major evolvers. That's also right. Though this world has passed tens of thousands of years, the martial Tao is ultimately not considered a strong path, without enough beings investing in it, and with the 7th rank chapter having taken a detour, it is not surprising that no 8th rank part emerged. Lin Yuan thought silently to himself. He could step into the 8th rank because his 7th rank was almost perfect, combined with Against Heaven's understanding, as well as the numerous cultivation conditions in the main world, and ultimately the countless evolution paths within the body of a supreme being. With so many factors enhancing him, it enabled Lin Yuan to achieve what he has achieved today. As for the martial Tao of the spirit realm, if Lin Yuan had not had a consciousness descent this time, it would probably take another 1,000,000 years without any martial Tao cultivator stepping into the 8th rank. Chapter 454. The 8th stage of martial arts should correspond to the Transcendence Tribulation stage in the Immortal Cultivation System, right? Lin Yuan thought of the Immortal Cultivation System. The Transcendence Tribulation stage is also known as the Immortal King. Tribulation Transcending Celestial King. Even when surveying the 3,000 Tao provinces of the spirit realm, the Tribulation Transcending Celestial King stands at the absolute summit. To step into the Transcendence Tribulation stage, one must transcend both the heart demon tribulation and the bodily tribulation. Only then can one break through to the Transcendence Tribulation stage and assume the position of an immortal king. This is similar to the need to overcome the heart demon tribulation when advancing from the 7th rank to the 8th rank. Lin Yuan pondered in his heart. The difference is that advancing from the 7th rank to the 8th rank only requires overcoming the heart demon tribulation, whereas the true immortals of Tao integration in the spirit realm must also face an additional bodily tribulation. Tribulation transcending celestial kings, wielding the power of creation, overlooking the spirit realm, and even capable of divine travel through hundreds of thousands of lower realms? Lin Yuan thought of what he had read about the tribulation transcending celestial kings. This information was collected by the martial temple. Although the martial Tao cultivation system is different from the immortal cultivation system, those who came later still hold the top-tier experts of Tao with awe. I wonder what the difference is between a tribulation transcending celestial king and an 8th rank evolver. Lin Yuan was curious. The cultivation system is different, so naturally, the abilities displayed at each stage are also different. If a tribulation transcending celestial king corresponds to the 8th rank, that's only a rough equivalence in terms of combat power. As for the specific details and techniques, only a personal confrontation would tell. Power of creation? Lin Yuan stroked his chin. This power is the core strength of a tribulation transcending celestial king, the greatest confidence for immortal king-level powerhouses to overlook all beings. Is it another term for the power of the world, or simply another type of energy? Do tribulation transcending celestial kings not have their own inner worlds at all? Lin Yuan's thoughts fluctuated. The most powerful method of the 8th rank evolvers is the power of the world cultivated within their inner worlds. But as for the power of creation held by the tribulation transcending celestial kings, its true nature remains unknown. The martial temple's level is after all not high. It cannot gather detailed information about the immortal king-level powerhouses. Deep within the martial temple, several supreme elders gathered together again. Chang'er's talent is too strong. We're unable to teach him anymore. The second supreme elder was silent for a while before speaking the truth. They are all martial practitioners of the 6th stage martial Tao, equivalent to ancient saints of the nether refinement period. In the spirit realm, ancient saints of the nether refinement period can also dominate a region. At least within a city like Xianyao City, a battle prowess of the ancient saints level is considered top-notch. But facing Lin Yuan, they all felt a bit intimidated. Lin Yuan's learning capability and cultivation speed are too fast. So fast that it made them doubt how they had lived through the years. So what should we do? The third supreme elder asked. Now the only option is to ask the 3 ancestors for guidance. Perhaps only the 3 ancestors are qualified to teach Chang'er. The great supreme elder spoke. The 3 ancestors? The remaining supreme elders were inwardly startled. The 3 ancestors here naturally refer to the 3 7th stage martial Tao strong practitioners, the founders of the martial temple. However, currently these 3 7th stage martial Tao practitioners are all battling for the Dao Immortal sect. Dao Immortal sect has protected Xianyao City for many years, not only because a true immortal of considerable prominence within the sect negotiated an agreement with that mysterious martial ancestor, but also because of the merits the 3 ancestors had established for the Dao Immortal sect over the years. Now, it seems only the 3 ancestors can teach him. The third supreme elder sighed. Anyway, they didn't dare to continue teaching. Otherwise, they would undoubtedly risk damaging their own state of mind. It's too exaggerated. If they hadn't confirmed that Lin Chang's soul and body were perfectly integrated, they would suspect that Lin Chang might have been seized by some old monster. In the spirit realm, seizure is not an uncommon occurrence. I will contact the 3 ancestors right away. Seeing that the other Supreme Elders had no objections, the great Supreme Elder stood up and said, "The three ancestors are engaged in external battles. If there is no major issue, they are not to be disturbed, but the matter concerning Lin Yuan is considered a major issue by the Supreme Elders." Within the cave dwelling, Lin Yuan, in addition to cultivating, was also sensing the great Tao rules of the spirit realm. Tai Yin rule. Lin Yuan's mind stirred, and streams of the extremely Yin and pure power of Tai Yin converged in the depths of his pupils, merging with the power of Tai Yang to form the power of Taiji. I didn't expect that not long after arriving, I would comprehend the Tai Yin rule. Lin Yuan was in a good mood. Despite spending nearly 20 years in seclusion in the main world without comprehending the Tai Yin rule, he had managed to grasp it not long after crossing over. However, my current strength is too weak to condense the rules. Otherwise, it would be interesting to see what will happen when the Tai Yin rule merges with the Taiyang rule. Will it form a new rule? The Taiji rule. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. The rules of the Great Tao are elusive. To condense a certain rule, one must first thoroughly understand it, and second, possess a body and soul capable of carrying that rule. Of course, Lin Yuan wasn't able to condense the Tai Yin rule just yet, but he could still use it. Once a certain rule is fully understood, even a mortal can, in every action, align with this rule and unleash a power that far exceeds their limits. This traversal does allow for the awakening of a new physical body divine ability. Lin Yuan seemed to think of something, and his eyes lit up slightly. The sixth stage martial Tao chapter draws from the essence of body cultivation, enabling the condensation of divine physical body abilities that belong to a martial Tao cultivator. So far, Lin Yuan had condensed two physical body divine abilities. The first one is blood rebirth. The second is mountain moving. The former had brought tremendous help to Lin Yuan. Even the opening of that mysterious gourd relied on the blood rebirth ability. Then there's that gourd. Lin Yuan's consciousness sank into the depths of his mind, looking at the towering and massive door to the myriad realms. If Lin Yuan wished, he could use a strand of world-breaking origin force at any time to bring over the mysterious gourd. But after some thought, Lin Yuan decided to wait a while more. His current strength was still too weak, and the mysterious gourd was too precious. It would be better to wait until he had sufficient power to protect himself in this world before considering it. Cultivate, cultivate. Lin Yuan's thoughts converged, and he started cultivating again. Although he was under the protection of the martial temple now and did not need to worry about safety, there were still many things waiting for Lin Yuan to do, and all these things required strength. On the edge of the Shenwang domain, inside a palace, three figures were sitting cross-legged, their qi and blood circulating and faintly vibrating in all directions. The martial temple has sent me a message. The first figure on the left opened his eyes and spoke. The martial temple? Has something big happened? The first figure on the right also opened his eyes. They had long told the martial temple not to contact them lightly unless something significant happened. What's the matter? The figure in the middle opened her eyes and asked slowly. This figure was a stunningly beautiful woman, who was none other than Li Qing, the direct disciple Lin Yuan had once accepted. They say that the martial temple has received a once-in-an-age genius, who upon perceiving the martial ancestors' divine radiance, caused 7 divine statues to tremble, all aglow with 12-fold brilliance. The figure on the left explained. All 7 divine statues radiant with 12-fold brilliance? The tonality of the figure on the right wavered slightly. Even he had only managed to make 1 divine statue tremble and shine with 12-fold brilliance back in his day. Indeed, a once-in-an-age genius. Li Qing nodded and said, "What does the martial temple want us to do?" "They want one of us to go back and personally instruct this genius," the figure on the left said. "Go back, one of us?" Li Qing frowned slightly. "The battle with the other great realms is at a critical moment. We cannot leave, not even our primordial spirits can depart. In that case, reply to the martial temple that in 100 years, I will personally return to guide this once-in-an-age genius," Li Qing said. She valued martial arts geniuses highly, Perhaps influenced by Lin Yuan in the past, Li Qing was willing to offer each martial Dao cultivator the chance to advance further. 100 years? Yes, in 100 years, the conflict will mostly cease, and by then, the three of us can return to see for ourselves. Let that once-in-an-age genius cultivate on their own for these 100 years, and when we return later, we will personally guide them, the figure on the right said. No problem. The figure on the left nodded. 100 years was nothing. That once-in-an-age genius might just be beginning to comprehend the martial Dao. Their return would be just in time to provide guidance at a critical moment. Years passed by. In the blink of an eye, 100 years had passed since Lin Yuan arrived in this world. Chapter 455 Lin Yuan's Strength. An underground world spanning tens of thousands of miles, with only Lin Yuan sitting cross-legged alone within it. The terrifying aura emanating from his body caused the space itself to distort slightly. 8th stage martial Tao has already reached the 2nd layer. Lin Yuan reigned in his aura and nodded in satisfaction. The Immortal Path skill does indeed play a significant role in perfecting the 8th layer part. However, beginning from the 2nd layer of the 8th layer part, the difficulty of expansion skyrockets. But with Against Heaven's understanding, this is merely a matter of time and persistence. In Lin Yuan's conception, the 8th stage martial Tao consisted of 4 stages, similar to most evolution paths of the main world's 8th layer part. But for the specific content of cultivation, Lin Yuan had pushed it to the utmost limit that he could possibly achieve at present. If it were just to create an ordinary 8th rank evolutionary path, there would be no need to expend so much effort. However, the 8th stage martial Tao was a critical phase in Lin Yuan's cultivation journey, so naturally he couldn't skimp on effort. My current realm has also surged into the 2nd layer of the 8th rank, he said. Had it not been for his encounter with the spirit realm's immortal cultivation system and other cultivation systems, which allowed Lin Yuan to reshape the martial path evolutionary path multiple times, it would have probably taken him several more decades to reach this level. However, when I returned to the 8th rank, I did not re-experience the heart demon tribulation, nor the bodily tribulation, required by a tribulation transcending celestial king. Lin Yuan said as he stroked his chin, deep in thought. Lin Yuan had a guess about why the bodily tribulation hadn't descended. This type of tribulation was meant for immortal path cultivators. Although Lin Yuan drew on numerous essences from the immortal cultivation system, his foundation still lay in the martial path evolutionary path. Thus he didn't need to face the bodily tribulation common to immortal path cultivators. As for the heart demon tribulation, Lin Yuan felt that his spirit will had already undergone transformation and likewise didn't need to experience it again. I've been residing for over 900 years, and only 100 years have passed, so I still have ample time to perfect the next 3 stages of the 8th layer part, he said. Lin Yuan was confident about this. Once the 8th layer part is perfected, the martial path evolutionary path will transform into an 8th rank evolutionary path, which I reckon could hold its own amidst all of humanity's 8th rank evolutionary paths throughout history. Lin Yuan stood up and exited the underground world to surface above ground. This underground world was an ancient sex ruin that Lin Yuan had stumbled upon unintentionally over 90 years ago. Thereafter, Lin Yuan transformed it into his usual practice area. Space. With a single step, Lin Yuan entered, following the spatial fluctuations, and in almost an instant arrived outside Xianyao City. The underground world where Lin Yuan cultivated was at least tens of millions of miles away from Xianyao City, but with his mastery over space rules it was just a single step. In the past 100 years, apart from recovering his strength and perfecting the 8th stage martial Tao, Lin Yuan never ceased his perception of the space rules. The core spatial models that Lin Yuan had comprehended had exceeded 4,000, and thereby, his inner world expanded to about 4 million miles in circumference. The 4 million miles here referred purely to the size of the inner world, supported entirely by space rules. And it had not been amplified by that mysterious gourd of the main world. If we consider the 5-fold basic amplification prior to teleportation, Lin Yuan's inner world size should be about 20 million miles in circumference. An inner world of 20 million miles in circumference far exceeded the human evolver's limit of 10 million miles for an inner world. The cosmic force born from such a vast inner world could likely withstand a few blows from an unbeatable 8th ranker. I should have time to bring over that mysterious gourd. Lin Yuan walked into Xianyao City, thinking to himself. 100 years ago, Lin Yuan's power was insufficient, so he did not bring the mysterious gourd over, worried about unexpected events. But now, even a tribulation-transcending celestial king looking down upon the spirit realm would not intimidate Lin Yuan. This time's recultivated physical body divine ability. Lin Yuan's thoughts were in motion. In the 6th rank chapter, one would condense a physical body divine ability derived from one's bloodline. Different physiques, different bloodlines, naturally resulted in different physical body divine abilities. In the central divine China world, Lin Yuan's condensed physical body divine ability was blood rebirth. On his main world's true body, the physical body divine ability Lin Yuan condensed was mountain moving. And now, in the 8th life's reincarnation within the spirit realm, Lin Yuan's condensed physical body divine ability was strengthening. Once the strengthening divine skill is activated, everything about Lin Yuan, from physical strength to vital energy, to soul to spirit would surge tenfold. Even the cosmic force within his inner world would receive a tenfold enhancement. Although the strengthening divine skill's duration is not long, just 10 breaths, and Lin Yuan's strength would slightly weaken by about 20 to 30% after the skill ends, there is no doubt this divine skill is an ace in the hole. In a battle between the strong, moments can determine victory or defeat, let alone 10 breaths. And with the physical strength, vital energy, soul, and spirit will all augmenting tenfold together, the impact on strength is definitely far more complex than just a simple tenfold increase. Owning such a divine skill, even an ordinary 8th rank peak evolver, could challenge the unbeatable 8th rankers. Of course, this is just within the duration of the divine skill's activation, but it's still unimaginable, akin to a substitute for cosmic force. What's more crucial is that the strengthening divine skill will become increasingly significant as one's power grows. An 8th rank peak, when utilizing this divine skill, can match an unbeatable 8th ranker within 10 breaths. But what about a 9th rank evolver? For the following period, apart from perfecting the martial path evolutionary path, my primary task is to thoroughly comprehend this divine skill and condense a divine ability imprint. Lin Yuan planned in his heart. Only by condensing a divine ability imprint could he carry this divine skill back to the main world. Lin Yuan remembered that it took him a full 50 years to fully comprehend the blood rebirth divine ability imprint. Chapter 456. As for the divine skill mountain moving, Lin Yuan had too little time in the main world to fully comprehend the divine ability imprint of mountain moving. He returned to the martial temple. Before long, a few supreme elders made their way over. Elder. Lin Yuan nodded slightly. Over the past century, the supreme elders of the martial temple had treated Lin Yuan quite well, nurturing him almost like the future of the martial temple. If it hadn't been for the support of the martial temple in the early stages, Lin Yuan would have definitely reached this point today, but it would have taken a lot more time. Cultivators of the immortal path need resources, and so do martial Tao cultivators. Especially at the 6th and 7th ranks, when opening up an inner world, the consumption of resources is as vast as mountains and seas. Chong Air, here is the immortal path skill you asked for. The great supreme elder took out several jade slips, looking at Lin Yuan, his gaze uncontrollably showing a trace of trepidation. As early as 70 or 80 years ago, they, the supreme elders, had already found Lin Yuan unfathomable. Lin Yuan had browsed through all the countless martial Tao scriptures recorded in the martial temple, and although they hadn't directly sparred in strength, every close contact with Lin Yuan gave them an inexplicable feeling of palpitation. This sensation had disappeared 60 years ago, but they had no intention of underestimating Lin Yuan. They just felt that Lin Yuan might have achieved the level of returning to the original purity. This was what several elders at the 7th stage martial Tao thought. Unless they deliberately demonstrate their aura, they look no different from ordinary people. Supreme Jade Purity Immortal Scripture. This is the secret core skill of the Supreme Immortal Sect? Lin Yuan became interested. In recent decades, Lin Yuan had asked the Supreme Elders to collect as many Immortal Path skills as possible. Although the Supreme Elders did not know what the purpose was for Lin Yuan, a martial path cultivator, to collect Immortal Path skills, Lin Yuan's displayed talent and divine abilities were too frightening for them to harbor any doubts. Lin Yuan quickly browsed through the Supreme Jade Purity Immortal Scripture, and finally nodded slightly. Although it ends after the Divinity Transformation stage, the Supreme Immortal King, as a Supreme Immortal King that commands respect across 3,000 Dao provinces, has indeed created a scripture with value. Lin Yuan commented with a hint of admiration in his voice. Even among tribulation-transcending celestial kings, there are differences in strength, and the Supreme Immortal Kings are the peak powerhouses among those in the tribulation transcendent stage. Lin Yuan guessed that the Supreme Immortal Kings might correspond to the invincible at the 8th layer in the main world. The Supreme Immortal Sect once intended to disseminate the Supreme Jade Purity Immortal Scripture and allowed other cultivators to practice the scripture. Otherwise we wouldn't have been able to obtain it, said the Great Supreme Elder, nodding his head. The purpose of the Supreme Immortal Sect's move was easy to guess. They were simply scouting for talents across 3,000 Dao provinces suited to cultivate the Supreme Jade Purity Immortal Scripture. The scriptures that the Supreme Immortal Sect spread only ranged from the Qi Cultivation chapter to the Mahayana chapter. Even if some idle Immortal Path cultivators were fortunate enough to begin practicing, the only way to delve further would be to head to the Supreme Clarity Immortal Sect.
Chang'e.
The Great Supreme Elder hesitated for a moment before he finally asked, "What is your current realm, the 7th stage martial Tao?" The Great Supreme Elder asked cautiously. In a mere 100 years, reaching the 7th stage of martial arts would have been utterly unbelievable to the Great Supreme Elder in the past. But Lin Yuan's performance in the past century caused the Supreme Elders to entertain such a thought. Being at the 6th rank themselves and feeling a sense of pressure from him, it was highly probable that Lin Yuan was at the 7th rank. "My current realm?" Lin Yuan smiled faintly. The other Supreme Elders, upon hearing this, instinctively pricked up their ears to listen. They too were curious about Lin Yuan's current strength.
No.
Lin Yuan shook his head. He had progressed beyond the 7th stage martial Tao 60 years ago. Not the 7th stage martial Tao? The Great Supreme Elder breathed a sigh of relief, feeling a complex mix of emotions. He hoped Lin Yuan was at the 7th stage martial Tao because that would mean the martial path evolutionary path had birthed another 7th rank ancestor, which would further expand the influence of the martial temple. But rationally, the Great Supreme Elder did not believe that, within merely 100 years, Lin Yuan could have reached the 7th rank, which seemed absolutely inconceivable. Now that Lin Yuan had confirmed it, the doubts in the hearts of the Supreme Elders were no more. From beginning to end, neither the Great Supreme Elder, nor the other Supreme Elders had ever considered that Lin Yuan could be at the 8th stage of martial arts. Because that was simply a fantasy ever since the martial path evolutionary path came into existence, the strongest among them was at the 7th rank, stopping at the level of a true immortal on the immortal path. The 8th stage of martial arts? Even the legendary martial ancestor hadn't delved into that, let alone Lin Yuan, such a fledgling who had only practiced for 100 years. If not the 7th rank, then it must be the 6th rank. 100 years to reach the 6th rank, in the martial temple since its establishment, such a cultivation speed can be called unrivaled. The Great Supreme Elder thought silently to himself. Over tens of thousands of years, countless martial Dao prodigies streaked across the sky, but there had never been one that entered the 6th rank within 100 years. The 6th rank of martial Dao corresponds with the level of an ancient saint of refinement void on the immortal path. To reach the level of an ancient saint of refinement void in 100 years, only those monstrous talents on the immortal path, the immortal king seeds, stand a chance of doing so. After the Supreme Elders left, Lin Yuan sat cross-legged in his cave dwelling. "My current Dao strength." Lin Yuan began to examine himself with the help of many methods. Even without the amplification from an inner world spanning over 10 million li, Lin Yuan's combat power was approaching invincible at the 8th rank. If he used the divine skill strengthening, within 10 breaths, Lin Yuan's combat power might even far exceed that of an invincible 8th rank. It's just, I wonder what the power of creation wielded by immortal king-level powerhouses is all about? Lin Yuan secretly thought to himself. After years of understanding, Lin Yuan roughly confirmed that tribulation-transcending celestial kings probably did not possess an inner world. What they relied on was the power of creation they wielded. Ordinary immortals wielded portions of the power of creation's might, while supreme immortal kings wielded the complete power of creation. Unfortunately, there are no immortal king-level powerhouses in Dongyun Tao province. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. Even when considering the 3,000 Tao provinces, immortal king-level powerhouses were extremely rare, let alone having such powerhouses stationed in Dongyun Tao province. Otherwise, Lin Yuan would probably try his hand against 1 or 2 immortal kings. As for outside Dongyun Tao province, the distance was too far. Even though Lin Yuan's mastery of space rules allowed him to cover millions or tens of millions of li in one step, it would still take a substantial amount of time to reach the next Tao province. With the effort it took to travel that far, Lin Yuan might as well spend more time in secluded cultivation. As for tribulation-transcending celestial kings, even if he went to another province, whether he could find a tribulation-transcending celestial king was another matter. It's time to bring over that gourd, Lin Yuan thought to himself. Now that his strength was sufficient, at least within the bounds of Dongyun Tao province, he was invincible. Even if there were hidden tribulation-transcending celestial kings, it was likely that they couldn't defeat Lin Yuan. Therefore, he currently had the power to protect that mysterious gourd. Thinking this, Lin Yuan's mind began to sink into the depths of his mind, looking towards that majestic and vast door to the myriad realms. Crossing dimensions, crossing latitudes, beyond imagination. Even though he had observed the door to the myriad realms more than once, Lin Yuan still felt a sense of awe strike him. When he first became an evolver, Lin Yuan looked at the door to the myriad realms and felt only its magnificence and vastness, but now, he saw this gate of light as if it were a colossal entity straddling boundless worlds. Through these 100 years, everything seems normal in the main world. Nothing much has happened. Lin Yuan could faintly sense the situation on the side of his true body in the main world through the door to the myriad realms. Let's begin. With a thought, Lin Yuan expended a strand of world-breaking origin force to start transporting the mysterious gourd from the main world to this place. Swish swish. In the center of the door to the myriad realms, space fluctuations faintly emerged. These fluctuations were profound and remote, as if emanating endless mystery. Lin Yuan carefully felt it. This method of transporting items through dimensional latitudes far exceeded his current understanding. By observing a little longer, he might, with his against heaven's understanding, be able to comprehend something new. After a moment, the space fluctuations gradually subsided. A dusky yellow gourd slowly emerged, landing into Lin Yuan's palm. Chapter 457. Is this the prodigy you were talking about? Gourd. Lin Yuan looked at the gray-yellow gourd resting on his palm. The moment it touched Lin Yuan's palm, the originally gray-yellow colored gourd immediately lost its yellow hue and turned into an ordinary-looking gray gourd. It can even sense whether I have absorbed the liquid inside. Lin Yuan was slightly surprised. Based on his experience using the gourd, its surface color depended on the user's degree of absorption of the liquid within. For instance, in the main world, Lin Yuan absorbed an orange-yellow liquid, hence the surface of the gourd also transformed from gray to gray-yellow. Let's begin. Lin Yuan's expression turned solemn. The liquid inside the gray gourd greatly enhanced his combat power, especially with regard to the expanse of his inner world, which currently spanned 4 million square miles. Just returning to the enhancement levels from the main world, would skyrocket his inner world to 20 million square miles. And that was just the enhancement from the orange-yellow liquid, not to mention the other 5 types of liquids. Lin Yuan could hardly imagine, once all 7 types of liquids were thoroughly absorbed, to what extent would his inner world grow. First, a blood drop to confirm eligibility. Lin Yuan gathered his thoughts and let a drop of his blood fall on the surface of the gourd. Only beings whose bloodlines contained the power of rebirth could activate the gourd. For Lin Yuan, the so-called power of rebirth was the essence of the divine skill blood rebirth. This divine skill was thoroughly understood by Lin Yuan and had been replicated onto his body for a century. Whoosh! The verification of the bloodline passed. Lin Yuan immediately noticed the gourd beginning to change. Crimson liquid. Tilting the gourd downward, he soon saw the crimson liquid pooling. Lin Yuan began to absorb it without hesitation. Time passed. Years went by in the blink of an eye. Compared to the centuries before, these few years almost flashed by. Martial Temple Cave Dwelling. Lin Yuan was seated cross-legged, his inner world vast and boundless, now reaching 26 million square miles. One should know the upper limit for human civilization evolvers was only 10 million square miles due to racial constraints, almost impossible to break through. Yet Lin Yuan's inner world easily reached 26 million square miles, a fact that, if known to the main world human civilization alliance, could likely provoke the intervention of a supreme being. Such means to transcend racial limits, even for a supreme being, required a grievous price, yet could the liquid inside the gourd effortlessly achieve this. Inner world. Lin Yuan's figure solidified. Such an immense cosmic force. Lin Yuan momentarily became engrossed, as in the main world his inner world merely spanned 10 million square miles and was still within the suppression limits for human civilization evolvers. But now, his 26 million square mile inner world, brimming with overwhelming cosmic force, made even Lin Yuan's heart throb. The difference between 10 million square miles and 20 million square miles was certainly more than twice. 8th layer invincible, my current strength, even without employing the strengthening divine skill, should have reached the level of 8th layer invincible, Lin Yuan thought to himself. Theoretically, an inner world spanning tens of millions of square miles could match the potential of an 8th layer invincible. But that would be under the condition of having just an inner world of that magnitude. Solely the overwhelming cosmic force could contest the cosmic force devised by an 8th layer invincible. Lin Yuan's current inner world might be just over 20 million square miles, but he had many other methods at his disposal. Combined combat power already matched that of a typical 8th layer invincible. Only, Lin Yuan slightly raised his head, looking up at the sky above. A sphere formed entirely by the power of Taiyin and the power of Taiyang was hovering there. Ever since Lin Yuan re-entered the 7th rank and began constructing his inner world, the complete Taiyin rule and Taiyang rule manifested in the inner world and started to merge. That was what led to the current scene, transforming into a sphere completely composed of Taiyin and Taiyang. Lin Yuan could feel that within the sphere, as the Taiyin rule and Taiyang rule merged, they began transforming and transcending. So he did not meddle too much. It should be close to completing its transformation. Lin Yuan carefully sensed for a while. Each strand of the transformation inside the sphere naturally occurred, and though Lin Yuan could intervene, he knew it was best to observe and let it unfold. Could it really be about to give birth to a brand new rule, the Taiji rule? Lin Yuan speculated in his heart. The Tao of Taiji, an original creation by Lin Yuan, was unlike the elemental forces of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, light, or thunder already existing in the cosmic world. The Tao of Taiji, the Taiji rule, had never appeared before Lin Yuan's creation, whether in the main world or in other traversable worlds. Xianyao City, a luxurious estate. Lin Yuan's figure appeared there. Chang'er, have you come? Xinzhan was watering flowers in the garden. Upon seeing Lin Yuan, she immediately exclaimed in surprise. Lin Jianpain was cultivating when he heard Xinzhan's exclamation. Immediately coming out of seclusion and stepping through the door, he too saw Lin Yuan. Chang'er, you haven't been here in a long time, Lin Jianpain said with a smile. What's the matter? Too much going on at the Martial Temple. It's manageable. Lin Yuan shook his head. The affairs of the Martial Temple weren't managed by him, and even several supreme elders wouldn't interfere with those trivial matters at the Martial Temple. But meditating occasionally for a few years was nothing unusual. Lin Yuan generally visited his parents every time he finished a meditation retreat. Chang'er, you're working too hard. Whether it's cultivating or doing other stuff, you need to focus on resting. Who knows, you might achieve even better results. Chapter 458. Shinjin promptly said. Lin Jianping also said with a chuckle. Right, son. Look at us, we're already enjoying life. I've delegated those matters in the trade association to my subordinates. With you backing us, who dares to slack off? In recent years, Lin Jianping indeed had a particularly comfortable life. His son had become a big shot in the martial temple, and the grand clans of Xianyao City vied to give him money and gifts. The 2 fruits I brought you last time, have you eaten them? Lin Yuan casually asked. Those 2 fruits could extend lifespan and improve physical constitutions. Naturally, they had no effect on Lin Yuan, but for lower-level cultivators like his parents, the benefits were almost transformative. I ate that fruit, and I felt decades younger, son. Lin Jianping's interest was piqued. Do you still have more of those fruits now? What nonsense are you spouting? Such spirit fruit is considered a treasure even in the martial temple. You greedy old man. Isn't 1 fruit enough? Do you want to put your son in a difficult position? Shinjin immediately expressed her dissatisfaction. To this day, they were unaware of Lin Yuan's specific status within the martial temple, knowing only that it was not low. This was also intentional on the part of the martial temple's supreme elders, who wished to keep Lin Yuan's identity hidden. For other powers, the emergence of a peerless genius in the martial temple was not a pleasant prospect. Therefore, information about Lin Yuan was kept under wraps until he had fully matured. I'm just asking. Lin Jianping knew the value of such spirit fruits. If you want to eat them, I'll bring some more next time, Lin Yuan said with a slight smile. With his strength now nearly invincible at the 8th layer, obtaining a few life-extending and fundamental reinforcing spirit fruits was a simple task. On the edge of the Shenwang domain, 3 7th-stage martial Tao cultivators gathered together once again. This military campaign is almost over. The 3 of us can finally return, one of the 7th-stage martial Tao cultivators said. His name was Shan Yang, born in the spirit realm, and by a stroke of luck became a disciple of the martial temple. With the temple's nurturing, he spent nearly 100,000 years to step into the 7th stage of martial Tao. Shan Yang felt immense gratitude toward the martial temple. Without it, he would probably have lived no differently from ordinary mortals, passing away after a century and returning to dust. To think that he now possessed terrifying power nearly equivalent to that of a true immortal. Upon our return, we can finally take a good rest, another 7th-stage martial Tao cultivator said, sentimentally. Fighting for the Dao Immortal sect, they had to engage in battle with Dao integration true immortals every so often. Even for 7th-stage martial Tao cultivators, such frequent fighting was draining. Didn't they say that the martial temple has accepted a peerless genius? When we return this time, the 3 of us should take some time to give guidance and strive to cultivate another 7th rank for our martial Tao, Li Qing suggested. As a being who ascended from the lower realms, he had received personal guidance from the legendary martial ancestor. Li Qing's strength had reached the 7th rank peak. If not for the lack of a clear path ahead, he would probably have already attempted the ultimate 8th rank. Ha ha ha! I certainly won't forget that, Shan Yang said with a grin. When I return to the martial temple, I plan to take that little guy to travel through the 9 heavens of the vast spirit realm to sense its profound aura. To take the spirit realm as a teacher, Li Qing affirmed with a nod. Although he had no clear idea about the peerless genius of the martial temple, taking the spirit realm as a teacher was surely the right approach. Countless powerful beings had been nurtured in its immensity. Traveling through the 9 heavens of the spirit realm occasionally yielded awakenings even for them as 7th rank martial Tao cultivators. I just don't know if the kid can withstand it. The aura of the 9 heavens is not something ordinary people can endure, Shan Yang thought again. If he can't handle it, we'll just take it slow, advised Li Qing. You also shouldn't disregard his feelings. Don't worry, Elder Li. I'll be careful, Shan Yang replied with a smile. If he detected that the youngster couldn't bear it, he would immediately halt the journey. I've prepared 3 Qingtian spirit elixirs. Another 7th stage martial Tao cultivator spoke up. His name was Nye Yun. a being from the spirit realm who had stepped into the 7th stage of martial Tao 20,000 years prior. Qing Tian Spirit Elixir? That's a foundation establishment divine elixir for those below the 6th rank. It must not have been easy to concoct a batch. Shan Yang expressed slight surprise. Difficult or not, it needed to be done, Nye Yun said with seriousness. For the prosperity of our martial Tao. Even though the martial Tao cultivation system currently had 3 7th rank ancestors at the helm, it still didn't quite measure up to those colossal entities with millions of years of heritage. Not to mention other forces, the Taoed Immortal Sect alone could easily crush the current martial temple. The Taoed Immortal Sect had dozens of Tao integration true immortals and more than 5 at the Tao integration peak. Even more critical was the fact that the immortal path they pursued held the potential to ascend to the Tribulation Transcendence stage. This alone was something the martial Tao cultivation system could never compare with. For the prosperity of our martial Tao, Li Qing said solemnly, emphasizing each word. She vaguely remembered that it was Lin Yuan who had rescued her in the East Sea and taught her martial Tao. Therefore, Li Qing had long considered the things Lin Yuan wished to do as her own, which was to spread the martial Tao cultivation system. It was the same in the world of central divine China. Now, even in the vast spirit realm, Li Qing still regarded this as her lifelong goal. The martial temple. Within the cave dwelling, Lin Yuan continued to attempt absorbing the orange-yellow liquid. Boom, boom, boom. Terrible flames burned within his body, counteracting the regenerative power produced by blood rebirth. And finally, Lin Yuan's form collapsed. Before long, Lin Yuan underwent blood rebirth and returned once again. It looks like it'll be a while before I can fully absorb the orange-yellow liquid. Lin Yuan steadied his mind and slowly recovered from the pain experienced while absorbing the orange-yellow liquid. So far, Lin Yuan's inner world had been subject to a 5.2 times base enhancement. If he completely absorbed the orange-yellow liquid, it would reach a 6.66 times enhancement. At that time, the size of the inner world would approach 26 million li. Let's take a break first. Lin Yuan did not immediately resume the absorption of the orange-yellow liquid. Though the liquid inside the mysterious gourd could continuously enhance the strength of his physical body and inner world, the devastation and suppression it caused to his spirit will grow heavier and heavier, requiring Lin Yuan to rest for several hours after each absorption. The Great Supreme Elder is looking for me? The 3 ancestors have returned? Suddenly, Lin Yuan received a message from the Great Supreme Elder. The 3 7th stage martial Tao. Li Qing. Lin Yuan's thoughts drifted to the image of Li Qing. At that time, as his Taiyang divine spirit roamed the East Sea, he saw a village on a small island being slaughtered by demonic beasts, and Lin Yuan casually saved them. And Li Qing was from that village. Later on, Lin Yuan discovered that Li Qing had a not inconsiderable talent for martial Tao cultivation, so he took her back to Bayou Island casually. Let's go take a look. Lin Yuan rose to his feet, walked out of the cave dwelling, and headed towards the martial temple hall. At this moment, inside the martial temple hall, a few supreme elders stood there respectfully. 3 figures were seated in the principal seats. They were the martial temple's 3 7th rank ancestors. They were Li Qing, Shan Yang, and Nye Yun. Ancestor, we have informed Lin Chong to come over, said the great supreme elder respectfully. I understand. Shan Yang nodded. After meeting him, I'll take him directly to explore the 9 heavens. The 9 heavens of the spirit realm, strictly speaking, are located in different spatial layers, each one featuring unfathomable sights, either the external rules manifesting or the essence of the world revealing itself. For lower-ranking cultivators, going to observe the 9 heavens is akin to a great opportunity. However, the 9 heavens are not so easy to enter. Typically, only true immortals of the Unity realm can enter to explore. As for taking someone along, whether true immortal or 7th rank who wishes to bring juniors into the 9 heavens, they would need to pay a significant price. And the duration is limited. Soon. While waiting for the 3 7th rank ancestors, Lin Yuan's figure appeared, entering the hall. Good lad. Shan Yang took a careful look at Lin Yuan and burst into hearty laughter. Old ancestors giving you a great opportunity. Follow me to explore the 9 heavens. After speaking, Shan Yang's figure vanished on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already standing beside Lin Yuan. Immediately after, Shan Yang grabbed Lin Yuan's shoulder, intending to ascend directly to the 9 heavens. However, the next moment, Shan Yang's expression froze. His right hand resting on Lin Yuan's shoulder trembled slightly. He looked at Lin Yuan as if he had seen a ghost. Why is he so heavy? Chapter 459. Born for the martial Tao? The martial Tao rises because of him. As a 7th-stage martial Tao practitioner endowed with a formidable physique, Shan Yang could easily lift enormous divine mountains weighing hundreds of thousands of feet. That was merely pure strength. If he relied on other means, Shan Yang's power could surge dramatically. This is the difference between martial Tao and the immortal path. Immortal path cultivators focus on the spirit, starting from the golden core stage, through the nascent soul stage, divinity transformation stage, and refining void period, where most of their cultivation concentrates on the spirit. Martial Tao is different. Although it can condense the primordial spirit, it still bases itself fundamentally on the physical body, with vast and ocean-like vigor and blood. However, at this moment Shan Yang was terrified within. He grabbed Lin Yuan's right hand but couldn't lift it at all. Heavy, heavy, exceedingly heavy. It was as if what stood before him was not a person but an entire world. But how could that be possible? A person as heavy as a world? Shan Yang's mind was like a paste, unable to react for a long time. He even doubted whether his strength had declined. You want to lift me? Lin Yuan glanced at Shan Yang. His expression revealed a hint of strangeness. How heavy was he? Leaving aside his physical body, as an 8th stage of martial arts, his body had undergone a 5 to 6 times amplification through the mysterious gourd. Every drop of his blood, every strand of hair, by the standards of the main world, weighed over 10,000 tons. The weight of the physical body was actually the lesser concern. The key was the world inside Lin Yuan's body that spanned a circumference of 26 million miles. This world resided inside Lin Yuan. Though it wasn't visible, that didn't mean it didn't exist. Usually, Lin Yuan operated the power of this world, balancing the gravitational pull originating from the spirit realm internal to his body. But it was merely a balance. If an outsider tried to lift Lin Yuan, they would need the strength to lift a world with a 26 million mile circumference. And just how heavy would a world with a 26 million mile circumference be? Probably heavier than several stars combined. Compared to Lin Yuan's strange demeanor, Shan Yang quickly came to a realization. It was not that his strength had waned, but rather that Lin Yuan, whom he considered a young fellow, was indeed excessively heavy. Heavily beyond imagination. So heavy that it surpassed his limits of strength. Therefore, even with all his might, he still could not budge him in the slightest. Not far away, Li Qing and Ye Yun looked at Lin Yuan and Shan Yang, who were caught in a deadlock. In their view, Lin Yuan stood there quietly while Shan Yang held onto his shoulder, seemingly about to straight ascend but then abruptly halted. In the next moment, Shan Yang's figure violently retreated, like a startled rabbit, stopping by Li Qing and Ye Yun's side, staring intensely at Lin Yuan. Who exactly are you? This scene baffled Li Qing and Ye Yun. Then the two of them quickly understood. Li Qing observed Lin Yuan intently and found that she couldn't see through him. The aura emitted by Lin Yuan was flawless and perfect, beyond her insight. For a moment, the two 7th-rank martial Taoists realized the gravity of the situation. The power of their vigor and blood began to spread and envelop the entire martial temple and Xianyao city in an instant. Who am I? Lin Yuan chuckled softly, then said, You needn't send me to the 9 heavens anymore, as my Yin spirit and Yang spirit have been cultivating there for years. The central divine China world has its 9 heavens, a battlefield where ancient saints of refinement void clash. And in the spirit realm, there is also a 9 heavens that is far more mysterious than in the divine continent, containing many marvels, that guide the understanding of the essence of the world. Thus, decades ago, Lin Yuan had already sent his Yang God and Yin God to the 9 heavens for enlightenment. Cultivating in the 9 heavens? Shan Yang and Nye Yun exchanged glances, feeling an even greater sense of oppression. Only a 7th rank or a true immortal had the strength to venture to the 9 heavens, but even they could only make brief stays. If they stayed too long, the pressure from the 9 heavens would be unbearable for 7th ranks and true immortals. As for cultivating there, perhaps only a tribulation stage celestial king had the capability to regard the 9 heavens as a place of cultivation. Of course, short-term cultivation, such as a few months or a few years, is likely feasible for peak true immortals. The 2 7th-stage martial Taoists currently had no clear understanding of Lin Yuan's strength, nor the purpose behind his infiltration into the martial temple. Yin spirit and Yang spirit? Li Qing gazed at Lin Yuan, somewhat lost in thought. For hundreds of thousands of years, countless martial Tao cultivators had emerged like carp in a river. And there were many who reached the 5th stage of martial arts and condensed a martial Tao primordial spirit. However, among 5th-rank cultivators with primordial spirits of various forms, Li Qing could only recall one being named the Yin spirit and Yang spirit. The Yin spirit and Yang spirit implied the cultivation of 2 diametrically opposed forces, where a slightest mishap could lead to irrevocable doom. Fusing Yin and Yang to condense the Yin spirit and Yang spirit had only been achieved by Li Qing's master, the ancestor of martial arts, since the inception of martial Tao. By her side, Nye Yun and Shan Yang felt indecisive, uncertain whether to attack or not. If they attacked, the 2 of them really had no confidence. Shan Yang had just exerted all his strength without being able to move Lin Yuan even slightly. The opponent's strength might not have reached tribulation, but was likely not far off. With their combined strength, even combined with peak 7th rank Li Qing, they wouldn't stand much of a chance, and by attacking they might irreversibly sever all relations. But if they didn't attack, Nye Yun and Shan Yang looked at Li Qing, deciding to leave the decision to Li Zhu. However, when they turned to look at Li Qing, they noticed her expression changing unpredictably, her gaze fixed on Lin Yuan, seemingly hesitant to speak. What's happening? Chapter 460. Nye Yun and Shan Yang were filled with confusion and doubt. Li, after so many years, you haven't changed a bit. Lin Yuan smiled faintly as he looked toward Li Qing and spoke. Upon hearing these words, Li Qing's eyes immediately began to redden. Nearly unable to control her emotions, she subconsciously uttered 2 words, Master. It had been tens of thousands of years. Only the once Lin Yuan had ever called her that. Li Qing had almost forgotten that she even had such a nickname. Go on. Tell me about what has happened over the years. Lin Yuan casually found a place to sit down. Over the past 100 years, he had been mostly cultivating, although he had obtained a lot of information about the spirit realm and the Tao Immortal sect through the martial temple. But certainly, none of it was as detailed as what Li Qing, a 7th-stage martial Tao at its peak, knew. Ah? The minds of Nye Yun and Shan Yang beside him were once again thrown into chaos. What happened? Why would Li Zhu call Lin Yuan master? Master. The idea that struck both 7th-stage martial Taoists was unbelievable. Li Qing's master was the legendary martial ancestor. Could it be that this young man before them was the martial ancestor, the opener of martial Tao? But how was that possible? Wasn't it said that the martial ancestor had vanished long ago? No need to stand, have a seat. Lin Yuan glanced at Li Qing, Nye Yun, and Shan Yang as he spoke nonchalantly. Instantly, an invisible force emerged. Nye Yun and Shan Yang subconsciously sat down. Li Qing too gently took her seat. This power! Nye Yun and Shan Yang's scalps tingled. In face of this invisible force, they had absolutely no ability to resist. Their pride in their martial Tao vitalities seemed as if rendered ineffective. Martial ancestor. That is the martial ancestor. Nye Yun and Shan Yang were shaken to the core. Lin Yuan at this moment gave off a feeling far stronger than Songqing Immortal, from Tao Immortal sect, who was only half a step away from becoming a tribulation-transcending celestial king. Master! You've finally returned. Li Qing's eyes were moist. For hundreds of thousands of years, she never stopped searching for traces of Lin Yuan. The Taoed Immortal sect claimed that Lin Yuan never ascended to the spirit realm from the ascension platform. He may well have broken through the barriers of the lower realms, entering the spirit realm amid the chaos of the void. However, this method of entering the spirit realm was highly uncertain, and one wouldn't typically arrive in Dongyun Tao province, let alone anywhere within the region of the 3,000 Tao provinces. The spirit realm is vast and boundless, with the 3,000 Tao provinces being just a part of it. The rest are mostly desolate areas. Master! Li Zu's address is Master? The respectfully standing supreme elders were caught in a storm of shock. Even though they had already highly estimated Lin Yuan, they had not foreseen that he would be Li Zu's master. How could this be? The martial ancestor. Chang Er is the martial ancestor. The great supreme elder's mind trembled. Even though the scene was incredibly unbelievable and Lin Chang's connection to the martial ancestor was incomprehensible, Li Zu certainly would not deceive them. As the direct disciple of the legendary martial ancestor, Li Qing would surely be well-versed about the martial ancestor and would not recognize the wrong person. That I would come to think that Chang Er was born for martial Tao? The great supreme elder's scalp numbed with this evaluation. For any martial Tao cultivator, it was an inner affirmation and acknowledgement, even hinting at pushing martial Tao to new heights. But if the person was the martial ancestor, it was not flattery. It was profanity. Born for martial Tao. Utterly wrong. The entire martial Tao arose because of the martial ancestor. I encountered some issues, which is why I arrived only now. Lin Yuan offered only a few words to explain experiences spanning hundreds of thousands of years. Li Qing and the two others didn't harbor much suspicion. The spirit realm was vast, containing countless mysteries. Even a tribulation-stage celestial king could be trapped for tens or hundreds of thousands of years if they fell into certain traps. As for why martial ancestor returned in the guise of Lin Chang, Li Qing didn't question it much either. Unity Realm true immortals had the means to dissolve their physical form and reincarnate, which was also one of the most powerful life-saving methods for true immortals. Of course, no matter how many times one reincarnates, the lifespan of the soul doesn't increase. True immortals live leisurely for hundreds of thousands of years, but once the limit of a soul's lifespan is reached, reincarnating any number of times is useless. The only way to extend one's lifespan is to attempt the tribulation, to become an immortal king. It's good that Master could come back. Nothing else matters, Li Qing said joyfully. Through this brief exchange, she was fully convinced that the Lin Yuan in front of her was her master, the ancestor of martial arts from the central divine China world. She could tell from his way of speaking and tone. Li Qing rarely divulged anything about Lin Yuan to outsiders, and many habits and ways were known only to her. Master, 6,000 years after you disappeared, I reached the 6th stage martial Tao following the guidance you left behind, she said. Not long after, I ascended to the spirit realm through the ascension platform of the Taoed Immortal sect. Li Qing began to recount her experiences over the years. After ascending to the spirit realm, Songqing Immortal kept his promise, even designating a city specifically for the propagation of martial Tao, Li Qing said, her tone still reflecting some gratitude. Without Songqing Immortal, without the early protection of the Taoed Immortal sect, she, a mere 6th-stage martial Taoist on par with the refining void period, would have had to join some power and serve for thousands of years just to stabilize her footing in the spirit realm. It was out of gratitude to Songqing Immortal that Li Qing volunteered to join the ranks of Taoed Immortal sect to fight its battles. Of course, the Taoed Immortal sect provided ample compensation, and during the wars between the Shenhuang domain and other great realms, Li Qing grew rapidly. Eventually, using one of the 12 pathways to the 7th rank left by Lin Yuan, she chose one to advance to the 7th rank. After stepping into the 7th rank, Li Qing had the right to advance or retreat. As a being on par with a true immortal, she belonged to the absolute upper echelons even within the Taoed Immortal sect. In this way, Li Qing led the martial temple of Xianyao City in an almost cooperative manner with the Taoed Immortal sect, continuing to this day. Li Qing fought for the Taoed Immortal sect while the sect, in return, protected Xianyao City and provided ample compensation. That she could cultivate to the 7th rank peak had much to do with the Taoed Immortal sect. Were you the only disciple to step into the 7th rank? Lin Yuan asked. He remembered taking in hundreds of direct disciples. Several among them had the potential to enter the 7th rank. Just me. Those junior brothers and sisters all fell during their attempts to break through to the 7th rank, Li Qing said, her expression tinged with sorrow. Breaking through to the 7th rank was anything but smooth sailing, especially since Lin Yuan hadn't fully perfected it at the time and... Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today.